Okay, moving on to the simplified method for single-family dwellings. Townhomes, row houses that have separate services can use this method. There's some minimum requirements by Article 2634, Sentence 5. It says to use this method, you must have at least 200 kPa available, which is really only about 30 psig, so expect to have at least that. Maximum developed length of the system from property line to the most remote fixture cannot exceed 90 meters. So if those three conditions can be met, then we can use this simplified method that's provided in the code. If we can't meet those conditions, then a detailed engineered design method must be used. And when using this method, we're going to use table 2634. Okay, so before we use table 2634, for all fixtures in systems that we supply water to, we need to determine what the water supply fixture unit loading will be. Different than drainage fixture unit loading in that it is measured differently. And we're going to take those loads from table 2632A. Always use 100% loads, so we use the total loads for all fixtures listed. So whether it's the single family simplified method, or we're using some commercial or average pressure loss methods, we always use 100% of the totals. These 75% individual loads that are provided are for detailed engineered methods. So for installers, inspectors, 100% loading is what is going to be used for the codebook methods. This table also is used to determine minimum size of supply pipes. So let's take a closer look at table 2632A. Here's a close-up of the top section of table 2632A. And I want to look at a bathtub with or without shower head just as an example. There's your common residential 5-foot recessed bathtub. Minimum size supply pipe is 1/2 inch. So up to the fixture, the last run of piping to that fixture would need to be a minimum 1/2 inch. That's the rough-in minimum. And if it's a private use, like in a single-family residential, we would give that bathtub 1.4 fixed units. So that's 1.4 on the hot, 1.4 on the cold. In a public use situation, that would be 4 fixed units. So it could be in, maybe it's an assisted bathtub in a mature residence or something like that, where there would be multiple users, might use a public load for that situation. But for single family, we would certainly use private use loading, 1.4 fixed units for bathtubs that are 1/2 inch. I just want to point out too, if you notice, bathtubs are 3/4 spouts. So if they're 3/4 rough-in, 3/4 spout, 10 fixed units for private. So quite a difference there, as you can see. Also, some of these supply pipes might be smaller than most installers or inspectors are used to seeing. Bidet, for example, can be 3 inch. There are some others listed, lavatories, flush tank water closets at 3/8. Those are not supply tubes, those are supply pipe sizes. So this could actually be the final run in the wall to that fixture. Although most installers will usually exceed that minimum by installing 1/2 inch. Okay, here's table 2634 that's used for sizing distribution, not for supply pipe sizes. Supply pipes we could take again from table 2632A. For distribution serving 2 or more fixtures, we would use table 2634 for single family dwellings, but not for the supply pipe sizes. There's 3 different velocity columns that are provided. The 1.5 meters would be used for materials such as copper for hot water. 2.4 meters is suitable for copper cold water, and 3 meters per second might be suitable for some manufacturers' plastic products, for example, like PEX or CPVC or polypropylene. First example, we're going to look at a single family dwelling. The material we're using is copper, so that's going to dictate our velocities at 2.4 meters for cold and 1.5 meters per second for hot. Minimum pressure at the building is 720 kPa, so that would be through the slab here. PRV is set to 520, so we have exceeded our minimum of 200 kPa as required, and the developed length will not exceed 90 meters. So far so good for using table 2634. Elevation above the PRV is 3 meters, so there's a bit of head loss there. Again, not really going to affect a single family dwelling too greatly, so we'll consider that negligible at this point. And then these fixtures are all describing the types of fixtures that are going to be installed in this installation. So we can take all of those loads as private use from table 2632A. Okay, so looking on table 2632A, we see that a half-inch hose bib, which is listed here in our specifications, half-inch hose bib is 2.5 fixed units for total and private use. Bathtub is a half-inch spout. So for private load, that's 1.4 fixed units for the hot side and 1.4 fixed units for the cold side. The flush tank water closet is less than 6 liters per flush. So private load, that's 2.2 fixed units. Lavatory, 0.7 hot, 0.7 cold. And then we've got a few other typical fixtures there as well. Looks like a powder room over to the left with another flush tank water closet, another private use 8.3 liter per minute lav. So those are, again, 0.7, 0.7, 2.2 for the flush tank water closet. We're going to add all these up in a minute. We've got clothes washer. It says it's a 3 kilogram tight, meaning that's its wash capacity, its load capacity. So a 3.5 kilogram tight clothes washer is 1.4 fixed units, 1.4 hot and cold. Because again, we go with total loads. Hose bib 2.5. Kitchen sink is 8.3 liters per minute or less, so that's 1.4 for the cold, 1.4 for the hot. So if we add up the load on our hot water tank, the total hot in this installation would be 2 lavs, 0.7 each is 1.4 total hot, 1 kitchen sink, 1.4, 1 clothes washer, and 1 bathtub. So the clothes washer and the bathtub are all 1.4 each. So the total in our hot water tank is 5.6 water supply fixed units for the hot water tank. So we're going to take that load over to our next drawing here in a minute, and we'll come up with some sizes. So there's all our individual loads. We're going to find some common loads on some of these different distribution pipes here in a minute. Looking at table 2634, going to be using the 2.4 meter per second column because that's for our cold piping for copper. And we're going to have to use this column for anything that we size as hot piping. Okay, so for our totals, we'll start alphabetically here. At A, that was our hose bib at 2.5 fixed units. The velocity, meters per second, A is a cold supply. Hose bib is a cold fixture only in this case. So that would be 2.4 meters per second. But as a final run to that fixture, a final supply to that fixture, that can be sized as a supply pipe. And as a supply pipe, table 2632A says half inch, because naturally it's a half inch hose bib. So we can go straight with supply pipe size for that. It's when we pick up 2 or more fixtures that we'll need to comply to table 2634, as table 2634 is used for distribution, meaning 2 or more. Okay, so that's a supply pipe. We actually have a supply pipe for B as well. B is a flush tank water closet supply pipe. Again, this is roughed in size. So the load is 2.2 for the water closet. The velocity is cold, so it could be 2.4 meters per second. However, again, as a supply pipe, could be sized directly from table 2632A. Minimum size is 3/8 inch for the supply pipe. After the wall stop, then there would be a toilet riser that would connect to the tank. Okay, C is finally a distribution pipe, and the remainder of this piping system we will size now from table 2634. C is a hot pipe, this hot line here, that's supplying hot to a lave, hot to another lave, and to a bathtub. So the total on C is 2 laves and a bathtub, 2.8 fixed units. So 2.8 fixed units, it's hot, so we've got to slow it down to 1.5 meters per second. Looking at table 2634, underneath 1.5 meters per second, you can see that up to 4 fixed units, we can size the system at 1/2 inch. So for our drawing, pipe C, not exceeding 4 fixed units, 1/2 inch. Okay, so there's C. D is cold. D is supplying everything downstream of that point. 2 flush tank water closets, 2 laves, 1 bathtub, and 1 hose bib. So for D, I get a total of 9.7. Add them all up. Velocity, 2.4 meters per second. Back at table 2634, now we're under the 2.4 meter column. We've exceeded 7 fixed units, but we have not exceeded 16, so we could use 3/4 for that size. So for pipe D, 3/4. Okay, let's take a look at E. E supplies these 2 fixtures downstream of that point. Hose bib, we said, was 2.5 fixed units. Clothes washer, 1.4. So for E, we get a total of 3.9. E is the cold line, so that's 2.4 meters per second. Okay, so looking under the 2.4 meter per second column, table 2634, not exceeding 7 fixed units, we can use 1/2 inch. So 1/2 inch for pipe E. Okay, getting the hang of this yet? F is over here, supplying the cold to that powder room. 1 flush tank, 1 lave. So for F, 2.9 fixed units, 2.4 meters per second, 1/2 inch. Again, from table 2634. G supplies the hot water tank. Earlier we said we had a hot water tank load of 5.6 in total. It's all the 100% totals of the fixtures that are supplied with hot. So 5.6 fixed units need to leave the tank. 5.6 fixed units will need to enter the tank. So to size G, 5.6 fixed units, that's the cold line feeding the tank, so that's 2.4 meters per second. Back on table 2634, under 2.4 meters per second, we could have 1/2 inch supplying the tank. So 1/2 inch for G. Even though there's 3/4 nipples on the tank, we could go with minimums here at 1/2 inch. Just adapt that to the tank. H, same load, but different velocity, because now we have the water heated, and as per manufacturer, we have to slow it down to 1.5 meters per second. Looking at table 2634, you'll find that it's interesting. Now we have to have 3/4. So we're not exceeding 9 fixed units. 3/4 inch leaving the tank, 1/2 inch feeding the tank. Okay, now we'll do the piping upstream of the hot water tank T. Remember, the load upstream of this T is the hot water tank load, 5.6, plus any cold only. If you remember our need to know step, hot water tank plus any cold only downstream of that point. So the cold only downstream of that point would be an additional 9.4 fixed units. So 5.6 plus the 9.4, that brings us to a total of 15 fixed units, water supply fixed unit. The 9.4 is the stuff that didn't show up in the hot water tank. That's the 2 hose bibs. That's the 2 flush tank water closets as well. Those weren't shown in that tank load. But we only need to count those other fixtures supplied with separate hot and cold once. So the best way we found to size the piping upstream of the hot water tank is to definitely take that hot water tank load, and then all we really need to add in after that is any cold only stuff that didn't already show up in the tank once. So for I, 15 fixed units for sizing purposes. I is cold, feeds the whole system. It's cold, 2.4 meters per second. And again, back on table 2634, 2.4 meters per second. We're not exceeding 16, so we have 3/4 for that as well. Okay, so that system's sized. We've got our supply pipes as minimums from table 2632A. All our loads we also got from table 2632A, and all the distributions serving 2 or more fixtures for this installation, table 2634.